Welcome back, valued viewers. I've got a few minutes to look at the Nissan again, which is good. If you remember where we left off, that is the fuel sender. Obviously what it does, it works, but it leaks. So what you do is you put it on to the top of the fuel tank. It's like a sealing ring there. Put a little rubber seal around the sealing ring recess. Screw that thing down, and hey presto, everything works. Of course this leaks, and I've been scratching my head and I've been trying all different permutations of ways of fixing this, and it leaks whatever I do, which is problematic. I mean, the first thing, the most annoying thing, is I can't actually work out why it's leaking. Why does that fuel that's down there, bear in mind that tank is not under pressure, technically it's supposed to be, but I removed the pressure pipe from it just for reasons. Anyway, that tank is no longer under pressure, it's free to atmosphere. Why does that gas down there want to come all the way up here through some weird action and want to get out of this seal and spill everywhere? I just can't work out where the physics of that is. Anyway, it's there for some reason. And the funny thing about this petrol is, well, you can make something watertight and then go and try it with petrol, and the petrol will get through the holes, if you know what I mean. It's smaller molecules or something like that. Anyway, I've had another look at it. But I haven't looked at this in a few weeks, obviously. Now here's the really weird thing. This is a brand new thing I just bought for £20, new seal. When we left this from the last video 3 weeks ago, before we had to go and start work on the Mazda 4 weeks ago, that fit in there a treat. Now look at it. Some weird chemical reaction has happened and it's grown and it no longer fits in the recess, which is just the weirdest thing. I mean, if you can explain that, then you're a hell of a lot cleverer than me. How on earth does a piece of rubber like that, under no particular pressure or something, just get bigger? So that's a bit weird and incredibly annoying, but there you go. Now here's the thing that fair enough, I'll find a way around that, but here's the thing, and you just have to kind of take my word for it, but if you just do it by feel, what we see here is that this rubber is sitting at least 2 mil proud of this kind of brass ring here, or whatever the metal is, which is good. Obviously you want it to sit proud. Then when you push the sender down on it, it creates a seal. Now the funny thing is, if you get the same diameter, same gauge rubber, and put it over here, it's barely sitting proud at all, and it must be almost impossible to make a seal. There it's sitting proud, there it's not sitting proud. So I've investigated further. Watch this. Never seen this before. Obviously I've done something wrong to cause this, or someone has, probably me. So this piece of metal, the kind of brassy coloured metal, is, I believe, the tank skin. Let me get this right. I think it's the tank skin. This here is something that's been added on the inside, and all it does is it's there to hold, to form a seal, hold that piece of rubber. Now if I go put just the tip of these tweezers and try and get between the two, I can't get between the two. Okay, now if I move over here, but I can slip it underneath. What's happened is the area from kind of here to here, where the rubber seal is not sitting proud properly anymore, is that this here has separated from this here vertically by about 2 mil, maybe even slightly more. So I'm thinking, why on earth is it like that? It's because I'm almost certain I've made an error at some point, and you see these are screw holes. This is back in the day, back in the late 80s, early 90s, when you still had screws on fuel tanks. They've all been replaced by plastic nowadays. It's plastic screw covers and whatnot, because this is just stupid. Anyway, it's just how it is. So what's happened is I've used a screw in here because the other one gone rusty or whatever, and it was too long, probably. It's gone down and pushed on this piece of steel here, and probably, if I could feel, well, I can't really feel anything, but my guess is it's actually forced this piece of steel away from this piece of steel, and they've separated and pushed it down. So my plan, I don't know how I'm going to do this, my plan is to somehow pinch those bits of steel together again, so they're flush down there, no vertical separation, and there's a gap here. So almost get like a clamp, and ping, clamp it, squeeze it all back together. I do that all round, and as long as I don't distort the brass ring has to stay perfectly level. It has to be this that gets distorted. But by virtue of the fact that presumably it was this that got distorted in the first place, then hopefully it will do again. Pinch it together. I hope then the seal thing, if I can somehow make it fit again, which I can't, but I don't know, then it should sit proud 2mm all around, and then I think that might be the solution. Okay, so I've got to go and find a way of doing that now and not distorting the levelness of this brass ring. Stand by. Welcome back. So to do this, I just created the pincers of hell. They will pinch your face off, and it's quite easy. Just kind of, well, pinch it together with a load of force. So what we're going to do now is check the depth all round, and I'm pretty happy that the depth now of the second leaf is within 1mm all round. And bear in mind we've got some tolerance. I think that's good enough. Oh, in fact, I'll just show you. You know that you can't get anything under there. It's all squeezed together now, which is great. And said seal now has a lovely big. It sits proud by a good 2 or 3mm now, which is wonderful. So I'm chuffed with that. So next I need. Well, here's the thing. It hasn't sorted itself out. It's still stretched, and I don't know why. So, okay, I guess I'm going to cut it, and I don't know, hope for the best, to make it smaller. It's really annoying, that is. And it takes ages to get new ones, because I think I have to get them from Japan or wherever the hell it came from. Then we'll refit this top. I'm going to give it a little clean up around this inside lip, because it's a bit old and rusty. Give it a clean up, and then put it back on, and this time we've got to get the bolt depth just right, because it appears that if we get the bolts too long, then we're going to do the same thing. It's going to probably push that down. That's probably what the problem is that we've been having, which is annoying. So I've just got a lovely new set of bolts here, wherever they are, but they're obviously going to be too long, and these are quite a rare M5.5 or whatever the hell they were. They're very odd, so I'm going to have to cut them down to size, annoyingly, and hopefully not de-thread the female threads. Anyway, let's see how we get on. Welcome back, valued viewers. I'm having to hurry now because it's only about 7 minutes until Sunday Fun Day, but I cut the seal down. I glued it together with engine sealant, which is quite strong stuff, resistant to oil, fingers crossed, resistant to petrol. Put that back down, and then I put the sender back on, and what I did, rather than cutting the bolts down, which can be a bit problematic, cutting very small fine bolts down, this down like 5mm bolts, is I spaced them up all by just putting junk and, you know, bolts and washers in, so that exactly 8.5mm of protection of each bolt is available. So the bolts are now the right length. Fingers crossed if I've measured it right. I've torqued them all up. That one and that one haven't torqued quite up to torque, because just through me being an idiot over the years, doing what we've been talking about, I've ruined the female threads on the fuel tank, and it's quite a big job to redo those threads. I'd have to drill right through the fuel tank, I'd have to empty the fuel tank, I'd have to do all the other odds and sods to make sure, you know. So I've just done the best I can, and do it as a test for now, and eventually one day, if this works, then I'll go and repair those threads, if it works. I've done a bit of painting as well, just the inner side of the fuel tank where I've done some nicks. So the next thing is we will go and get the key, I guess, start her up, run her for 10 minutes or so, and see if she leaks, fingers crossed. Unfortunately it failed again. I don't know if you can see the kind of wetness coming in, creeping around the edge. I get the feeling that I don't think it's leaking through the rubber seal at all. I actually think what I said last time, I think it's coming out the side where the two rings that we pinched together today, where they meet. I think that's meant to be petrol proof. My best guess is that it's not, because I've broken it somehow, and it's actually not seeping from the inside, if you like, here out, but actually from the outside in. That's what it looks like when you're physically watching it happen. Can't really show it on camera. So what we're going to do is strip everything down again for the 10 million trillion billion zillionth time. Start again. Welcome back, valued viewers. Another Sunday. I've got a couple of hours to spend on the car, which is great. So where do we get to? Basically nothing's working. The tank's leaking whatever I do. Dope. So I'm giving up basically, and what I'm going to do is try and fudge it. So what I'm going to do is take the sender out again, and everywhere where there's any kind of mating of metal on metal, I'm just going to, what I call it, rhinoplast it, just like a high temperature sealant. it's resilient to oil. Don't know if it is to petrol. I guess we're going to find out the hard way. And that is the best bodge I can think of at the moment. Without, I mean, the other two things are taking the tank off and re-welding where I think it's leaking from, which I really don't want to do. It's just a massive pain in the butt, and to be honest, I'm getting pretty fed up. Or removing that tank altogether and having an internal alloy tank, which to be honest I don't want to do anyway. It's not a race car, I don't want to do that. So let's try this idea. Let's get it apart. Welcome back. So all of the areas where fuel could be getting in I've now sealed. Around the outside here, in the screw holes there, in this kind of inner ring here where the two kind of sheets of steel meet, and I'm going to add obviously the rubber O-ring in as well. So that's everything that I can sealed. My only really concern is that if some of this sealant gets into the fuel, then it will pretty much kill the engine, because it will kill the injectors. So I've got to really just fingers crossed that nothing can get into the fuel. So that's that. Now the second thing I've done is just to absolutely make sure that the tank is vented, because there's a, I don't know if you can remember from last time, there's a little kind of vent hose in there somewhere. I've now made sure it's vented by, it goes through here into there, and in here I thought it just, you know, came out and ended there, but it doesn't. Instead it goes into a whole nother hose system inside the fuel tank, all kind of hidden and going all the way around here, and I have no idea what that does. Could have one-way valves that are blocked, it could just be blocked, you know. So I thought, okay, so I've just basically removed the hose from it, and there is now essentially a clear hole from the top of the tank here, coming up through an elbow and coming out there, which means a little bit of fuel may escape from, you know, when it's jiggling around and stuff like that. But there is 100% definitely a vented tank now, as in the fuel pressure, the pressure in there shouldn't get too high now. If that was causing the problem, which it may or may not, and I haven't got the foggiest. So I guess now we put the O-ring in, put it all back together, and see how it operates, and fingers crossed. Welcome back. Okay, everything's back together. So this time I've done three things. As I said, we've made sure that the tank is vented this time, 100%. I've sealed every kind of mating surface that I could find, and kind of the sealant's kind of squished out nicely around the side as everything went down. As well as that, I've torqued the bolts up more carefully this time. Well, firstly, they're much less torqued now. There's hardly anything on them, just a pinch, a couple of foot-pounds, almost none. And rather than just doing them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I did a proper spread pattern this time and made sure, you know, like you would tighten a structural item, just like wheel nuts or something like that, and made sure I slowly torqued them as I went, rather than just pinching one side and then doing the other, because I get the feeling that's how I might have ruined that seal, just by pinching one side here, and the seal might have gone pong out there. In fact, I bet it did. Stupid me. So I've made sure I just very slowly cross pattern tightened them. It took about 20 minutes doing it just to make sure, and like I said, I've got very little force actually on it, but it probably doesn't need much force. So there's three things we've changed, which is a bit stupid because you should only really change one thing at a time when diagnosing, but every time I do this I mess those threads up a little bit more, and you know, get the tank closer to the end of its life each time. So I'm going to try this. Wish me luck, because I'm bored of this. Ta-da! Appears to be working. So finally got that working. Annoyingly still don't really know what the problem was, whether it was this, it was the rubber seal, whether I was doing something wrong with that, whether it was the venting, or whether it was the fact that I've now had to add a liquid gasket. Don't know, probably never find out. For the future I'm just going to be very careful with that area there. It seems very temperamental. So that, fingers crossed, that's done now. I'll have to fill the tank up now fully and see if that causes any problems, but fingers crossed. Next, got to get it to the body shop to get this sorted out. I don't know, I can't remember if I made a video of this, but I completely cocked up the windscreen seal. My fault, lesson learned, hopefully. Just got to go to the body shop and get that all taken off and resorted, fingers crossed, in the next few weeks. And then I think it's done and we're ready to actually use it, which will be a bit weird after all that work. I will see you on the next video.